Dive into the pulse of Bills football with Turf to Tape, where veteran sideline reporters Sal Capaccio and film room guru Eric Turner deliver a one-of-a-kind podcast experience, combining Sal's unparalleled access to players and coaches with Eric's razor-sharp film breakdowns. The show bridges the gap between casual fans and hardcore enthusiasts. This is Turf to Tape.
This is Turf to Tape, presented by Thin Man Brewery. I'm your host, Eric Turner. As always, joined by Sal Capaccio, the man that I always say lives at the the intersection of access and insight. Sal, I know it's been a crazy last 24 hours or so. How are we doing today? How was the game? How was the flight back?
You know what? It was nice to end the preseason on a victory for the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. I'll say that, Eric. You know, I know it's preseason, but last week in the locker room, talking to Frank Gore Jr., and I said to Frank Gore Jr., I have a microphone, and I said, you know, Frank, I know the score doesn't matter. And he goes, it always matters. That's what he said. Yeah. And it struck me this week. And I said to him today, last night, I said, you told me last week the score matters. How nice is it to get a win? And he had a big smile. And it does matter, right, to these guys. Yeah. They want to be on the winning end. We all know that the record is 0-0 no matter what you do in the preseason. But I don't think you want to go 0-3. And I think more than anything, Eric, for me, I think these guys, the guys who are on the field predominantly, put a better foot forward this week than they did last week. And that's something you want to see as a team, but individually as well for a lot of these guys going forward.
Right. You put in a lot of work during the week. These players and coaches put a lot of work in, a lot of time away from their families. This is their job. This is what their craft is. And at the end of the day, yes, you want to win. You play to win the game, right? That's the moniker there. And it was nice to see them come out with some juice and some aggression in this game. And we're going to get to all of that. But before we get to the actual game review, the game recap, arrow up, arrow down, I want to get any updates that you've heard, any injury updates, any updates on Trey White or any of the other Bills players.
Yeah, so we don't know anything about Tre'Davious White other than what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott said, but let me recap in case people missed it. Right. Brandon Beane was on with our buddy Josh Reed, Channel 4 WIVB, and Bills Kickoff Live, which I'm a part of that show throughout the season. He was on with them before the game, and he said it's a lower leg injury. He said, we'll get him back. We'll hopefully get him back when we can get him back. So I guess that could sound encouraging, but they won't put a definitive timeline on it. Sean McDermott said after the game, he told Jay Skursky of the Buffalo News that Trey is still getting an MRI and they'll go from there. So we really don't know any of that. And I'll just reiterate what I saw real quickly for everybody was he was hopping on one leg after a play at practice. He went off to the side. And then he was a bit frustrated. He was like punching the wall a little bit, right? Frustrated. Like you were thinking, man, this is not good. Mm-hmm. Then he actually walked on his own power through the end zone area, up the tunnel. He walked all the way up the tunnel on his own. Nobody helped him. They didn't bring a cart, nothing like that. Went into the game day locker room, which is located on the far end of the tunnel, not where the field is. Then he came all the way back down and then he sat in a cart and they took him out to go back to what I'm assuming is the field house and the training facility. So when people say he got carted off the field, he did not get carted off the field.
Right.
He walked off the field. He eventually sat in a cart to get driven to the field house area. So I just think there's a distinction there. And for me, one of the other context clues I try to, read into a little bit here is head athletic trainer Nate Bresky was not with him. It was another trainer. And I think a lot of times when it's severe enough, serious that maybe Nate would be with them, but it doesn't have to be, right? You could say, hey, we don't really know, but maybe Nate's got another job to do. But I did think it was notable that another trainer had walked up with him.
I love that context. Again, we'll see, if that is the case or not, but that context that you added is pretty important in my opinion as well. So I'm glad you added that. And if you guys don't subscribe to Sal on X, please do, because he gives nice little nuggets like that, if you're not listening to the radio live, maybe you missed out on that. That was a nugget that I saw you put out for subscribers. So if you're not a subscriber, make sure to subscribe to Sal on X. And so it's interesting, to start the year, I loved the depth at corner. And then it's just amazing how quickly that depth can be deteriorated. And, now all of a sudden, a lot of fans are kind of worried with Hairston out. Trey's going to be out possibly. Now you're talking guys like Dane Jackson, who a lot of fans had kind of been over, once he left Buffalo. And then obviously the Bills brought him back and he's been playing a lot. He played a lot last night. What's your thoughts on the depth? Where do you think the Bills go from here if Trey can't play in week 1?
Yeah, so this is super interesting to me, Eric, and I've thought a lot about this. And what I've really settled on and what I've said is I really think it's kind of all or nothing for Dane Jackson, depending on the situation with Tre'Davious White. So to me, if Tre'Davious White is healthy and he's going to be ready week 1 and they're confident in that, I don't think Dane Jackson's on the roster. I think it's Jamarcus Ingram over him. I really think it's might be a choice between the two. Now, Dorian Strong is a part of this. I just always feel like they don't want to cut a 6th-round pick right away. They could, but then you would possibly lose him to waivers, right? So I think Jamarcus Ingram gets a spot over Dane Jackson. Who knows? So if everybody's healthy. And then Dane Jackson is like the perfect practice squad vet at corner, right? Something happens to someone on a Wednesday at practice. You're like, man, we got him, elevate him. He can play, he knows our system right away. If Tre'Davious White is not healthy and won't be for the foreseeable future, let's say he's going to miss several weeks bleeding into the regular season, then I think Dane Jackson has to be on the roster. And not only that, I think he starts.
Yeah.
I don't think you're putting Jamarcus Ingram on the outside when he's so valuable. You could make the argument Jamarcus Ingram's better than Dane, but my argument would be from the Bills standpoint, they would say, but we need Jamarcus to be a nickel corner, a dime safety, play a lot of special teams, and we don't want to have him just pigeonholed on the outside, and there's Dane. Then the other little nuance there is, what if it's, okay, Trey might be available week 1, he might not, but we know it's not going to be super long. Okay, then you have a couple of choices. Then you could put Trey White on IR to return, and then he misses 4 games, and you have an open roster spot. Or more likely to me, then you still don't keep Dane and you elevate him for a couple of games from the practice squad so he can fill a spot, and then Trey comes back. That's how I read it right now. And then for you brought it up. He was playing late into the game.
He was.
I was thinking to myself, boy, I don't know if that's a good sign for him, but it might be a good sign for Tre'Davious White that they're not risking Jackson get hurt.
I know. I'm pretty sure. Did he play 100% of the snaps? I thought he did after looking at some of the snap counts. Yeah.
I don't think he was close to it though. It was close to it. There was only it was Daquan Hardy who played 100%.
Oh, that's right.
For sure. Right. So Daquan Hardy played it real quick. Dane Jackson played 65%, 37 57.
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, he did play a lot though. And again, I think that's good. I'm with you. I do believe that he's got a high floor. He knows the system. Week 1's always wonky when you're talking games. And so he knows everything. He's been there, done that. Is he going to struggle at times? Yeah, he's going to struggle at times, but he's also going to be reliable and make some tackles. He's going to come up in the run game, which you're going to have to do in week 1 against Baltimore. So it'll be interesting to watch how that shakes out. So with that said, let's move on to your overall thoughts from the game. I thought the Bills did a great job in this final game of the preseason. They were urgent. Everything was with intent and purpose. I thought both sides of the ball, for the most part, controlled the line of scrimmage. On offense, 25 first downs, 6 plays of 20-plus yards, a 0.16 EPA per play. On defense, only allowed 2.6 yards per rush. I think on both sides of the ball, and even I think the special teams portion, I think that was kind of the weak spot of this game. But overall, what were your thoughts about all 3 phases of the Bills versus the Bucs?
Yeah, first of all, it was really good to see the 2s and 3s really. I mean, in Shane Buechele's case, the 4, right? Fourth quarterback, moved the ball on offense. And Shane Buechele was amazing last night.
He was.
25 of 30, 278. He had another 20 on the ground. He accounted for 298 yards. I believe he's the highest passer of the week in the NFL, to be honest with you. I think statistically, which is great. I mean, we can get into him a little bit, but I don't think he has a shot to make the team. I mean, he's playing against pretty much third stringers on the other team, but good for him.
Yeah.
He was very emotional. I don't know if anybody's heard it. I'll try to maybe I can send it out later when I'm trying to get the copy of it from the audio broadcast after the game, but I did an interview with Shane Buechele on the field. He got emotional, Eric. It was really interesting because one thing he said, I didn't realize, he said, this is the first time I've ever played a full NFL game in preseason or otherwise. Yeah,
that's cool.
Pretty cool, right? So that was great to see. So I'm really happy for Shane Buechele. I thought they did a nice job to protect him mostly, but he's also mobile enough where he was able to get out of some situations. He didn't get helped early on. He had a drop from Tyrell Shavers. There was another drop in there, but then he still completed 25 of 30 passes. Defensively, this team has stopped the run very well this preseason. I don't know. I'm going to go back and look. I'm going to look at the stats right now. Let me see what the now, other than I guess you'd say the game last week didn't go so well against the Chicago Bears, but I'm trying to see here what they had against the run. But either way, I 2.6 yards a carry, right? I mean, like that was really nice. And I remember against the Giants didn't do much either against the Bills. I like the way the Bills have defended the run. And that really gets us to Deone Walker. We'll talk about in a little while. He was very, very good on the interior. Michael Hoyt, again, was a really good player for this team.
I wish he was playing right away. He's ready.
Jimmy Charlo, I know everybody's asking me, oh, did he earn enough? Did he do enough? I don't think so. I mean,
No.
look, Jimmy Charlo's a nice guy that said, hey, I'm here and put me on the practice squad. I think that's what he's done for himself. Maybe, and he can play multiple roles right there. The issue last night that cropped up was kickoff coverage.
Yeah, return.
You have to put it in context that you're not using your regulars, right? You're using guys trying to make the team, but it still wasn't good enough. It doesn't matter. Those guys are trying to make the team. They have to be better. A guy that I gave an arrow down to was Laviska Shenault. He clearly had contained that he lost on one of them. Like that was his job. He got sucked inside. He was a little bit too impatient, and I didn't see Laviska Shenault do enough returning the ball either. One kick return was fine, but didn't put him at punt return. Yeah. He only caught one pass. So I did my 53-man roster projection this morning. I had him on the outside looking in. I just don't think he did enough, but that was a guy I gave an arrow down to. I also gave one to Daquan Hardy. Eric, you know this. He was in a tough position. I mean, he hadn't been playing the slot, and he goes against Tez Johnson. I mean, only so much you can have and ask the guy to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's start on that side of the ball. Let's start on defense. Go over a couple players. I thought, first of all, Cole Bishop. He was called out, obviously, from this staff. Called out, and I thought he answered to McDermott, and he played focused. He was under control, fast, physical. He was in the box making plays against the run. He was hitting and laying the lick from the post safety position. I thought he had a really good game. I'd like to hear your thoughts on if the message was received from Cole Bishop.
I think so. You know what I really liked about Cole last night? I thought he just played with confidence. Like it looked to me like he knew where he wanted to go and he went there.
Conviction, yeah.
What do you say? What do coaches always tell you when you're playing any sport, but especially football? If you're going to make a mistake, 100%. Do it at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Right. Like don't make a mistake timid. If you're going to make a mistake, at least go make the mistake hard, because anything can happen then. Right. And that's what I think Cole Bishop, and I'm not saying he made mistakes. What I'm saying was I thought in Chicago, he was a tick behind. Maybe he's overthinking. Maybe he's trying to kind of see where he's got to be. He doesn't want to make a mistake. I didn't think he played like that last night. I thought last night he was confident. He came up in the run game. He was there. He didn't get credit for a pass breakup, and maybe he shouldn't anyway, but he was right there for a ball that if it was on target, he probably would have had the pass breakup, but he was right there. I just really love the way that Cole Bishop played last night. And I think it should give Bills fans a lot more confidence heading into week 1, because he's going to be the starting safety. You may not like that out there. I get it. There's fans who don't want that to happen, but that's what it's going to be. It's going to be Cole Bishop and Taylor Rapp.
I love your point about making the mistakes at 100 miles an hour, because he actually did make a mistake on one play. He was dropping down from a too high safety position, dropping down into, I think it was like a cover 3 buzz. So he's that hook to curl defender, or maybe even been the flats. Regardless, he saw a crosser coming and he actually attached to the crosser in zone coverage, when really the post safety should have switched and ran a slice. But he did it at 100%. He took away that crosser and the quarterback had to dump it down. The safety that stayed into the post essentially played off of him and just stayed back there and didn't execute the assignment he was supposed to. So they improvised, but Cole did a great job of just saying, you know what, I'm just going to trust my eyes. I'm committed to going and cutting this crosser. I'm going to take him over, and the defense, the play worked out. And so some things like that happen. We talked about for weeks how Poyer and Hyde could do that verbally, non-verbally, just play off each other and just improvise off each other, cover and erase mistakes. We saw that from Cole. We saw that from the safety group. I thought your point about that is spot on. And he saw the ball. He got the ball. That's what he did. There was no thinking. He did a good job yesterday, and I think he answered the call. So another guy that we can talk about that was probably the player of the game, Deone Walker.
Yeah.
Deone Walker is our tapped-in player of the game, presented by Thin Man Brewery. The guy was lights out yesterday. Like, so exciting to finish the preseason like that. Let me hear your thoughts on big old Deone Walker at nose tackle for the Bills.
I mean, he's so noticeable because of his size, right? I mean, we know that, but his production was there too. That's why he was noticeable. 4 total tackles, 1 for a loss, a half a sack, a QB pressure. He was filling up the stat sheet.
Yeah.
But the thing that we kept hearing about Deone Walker when he was drafted and then early on in camp, Eric, was a man that big shouldn't be able to move that well. And I think last night you saw that a few times, right? Eric Wood gave a great nugget on the radio broadcast. He said he was talking with Connor McGovern, and Connor McGovern, who goes against Deone Walker a lot, said, this guy is so big. When you go against guys like that, you think their power, they're getting into you. He said, but he has more wiggle, and you can't just play him like that. You can't just play him straight up thinking, okay, he's coming into me. He's a big guy and I got to hold anchor here. he has wiggle, and you got to be aware of him being able to move a little bit. That's just now you put yourself into a center or a guard in their mind when they're going against him, and you don't know like if he's gonna have a move on you, if he's just gonna try and power through you. Now you're even enhancing your ability to make plays of your Deone Walker. I thought it was great last night. This is really a guy. Somebody asked me, or at least saw the question, like, how the heck did the Bills wind up getting this guy in the 4th round? Well, let's remember what happened. He was considered a fringe 1st-round pick a year ago, and he didn't have a great year. And then when he went to, and then he came back to school, and he didn't have a great year. And then they realized that, like, his pro day, I think it was, Eric, that he had a back issue he was dealing with that nobody really knew about, and it wasn't bothering him enough that he kind of noticed it, but it was probably hindering him playing. And I think now we're starting to see a healthy Deone Walker, which is great.
Yeah, quick off the snap, violent hands. There were moments where he was just overwhelming every single guy he was going up against. I thought he dominated once again, like you saw in the Bears game. Anytime they run a gap run, so where they have an offensive lineman try to pin him down or down block him, he sees it and he just swims it with such violence and drops guys to their knees. The point about the wiggle, I love that because, yes, he's big and he's quick, but what he can do, he's so long and big as well that he can play at length. And he did it a lot yesterday where he plays at arm's length and he can hold those offensive linemen at bay when they're still trying to drive him and move him against his will. But he's got the footwork and feet to work around his hands where he can keep his hands in one spot and control the guy, move his feet around to win the edge. And he did that multiple times in that game yesterday, almost to the point where he was almost quasi two gapping, not literally stack and shedding, playing 2 gaps, but because he was so overwhelming and his feet were able to move independently of his hands, he was essentially 2 gapping and playing basically the linebacker and D lineman's job in one play. I thought those were all pluses in his book. Couple plays, pad level still a little high, mainly when the offensive line is trying to zone block and move him laterally down the line of scrimmage. He'll insert into his gap, but then his pads are a little high and he struggles to kind of anchor down and shed. But overall, he is definitely the tapped-in player of this game. He just took over at times. And you mentioned Michael Hoyt at the beginning of this broadcast. Those 2 players just looked ready for week 1 in the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Bills won't have Michael Hoyt, obviously, for week 1 or for the first 6 games. And then they'll get him back for the 7th game, which is actually after the bye against the Carolina Panthers. Michael Hoyt said he's going to be sticking around close by. He can't even go to the facility to be with his team, to go into meetings, to go in the weight rooms. He's got to train on his own. He's got to kind of do everything right on his own, which he will. He's committed. He's dedicated. He said that. And then he'll come back in, and after week 4, that's when they can get back with their team, start practicing, and at least in meetings and things like that before they get back on the field. So that's good. But Deone Walker, I think it's interesting that he actually didn't even take full reps the first rookie minicamp when he was drafted because of the back he was recovering from. And now it's just okay, there was question oh, is this guy even going to start training camp on PUP? No, I mean, he's ready to go. As you said, love it. I just looked up that stat. So the Bills through 3 preseason games, Eric, only allowed 3.47 yards per rush. Now I know it's preseason, but that is actually that's 4th best in the NFL amongst preseason defenses, 3.47 yards a rush. And I'd say a lot of that is their 2 rookie tackles, TJ Sanders, of course, who I think he's played well, and especially Deone Walker.
Yeah, Deone Walker as well. Yeah, I like where we're headed when it comes to the interior defensive line, and obviously Deone Walker being our tapped-in player of the game. Keep an eye out for things at Thin Man Brewery. The fan favorite Pills Mafia is getting a bold rebrand and is bringing back up, introducing Mafia Lights, already out in stores now in Western New York. It's a new tailgate essential. Mafia Light hits different with just 3.5% ABV and only 80 calories per 12-ounce can. Drinks like water with notes of beer. We appreciate them sponsoring this segment for the year, and we appreciate the hell of a game by Deone Walker and things to come for him as a player, a young player that's going to have a major role with injuries, with the suspensions and Ogunjobi not being there as well. I thought those 2 guys, Sanders and Deone Walker, had a great game against the Bucs. So who else, Sal? Who else stood out for you? Arrow up, arrow down on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I wanted to give a little bit of love to Joe Andreessen because I think he bounced back well. I don't think Joe had the best game, and even Sean McDermott said it wasn't. He said guys have off games from time to time, but Joe Andreessen had a nice game last night. I thought that he bounced back. It was really nice to see that. So that was good from him. He had let's see. What I really liked about him was his open field tackling, by the way, Eric. I think that
much better out in the flat.
Yeah, that's what Joe does well. Joe in the open field, when Joe gets his hands on you, he brings you down. He didn't do that as well against the Bears. He did that in this game. I have it here, 6 total tackles, 1 for a loss. We also talked about Jimmy Charlo as well. And I like about Jimmy Charlo is this guy just comes in. He's a West Point grad, right? Army. And you talk about discipline and knowing football and being smart. He just came right in, bam, bam, bam. The guy had to play nickel against the Bears for a little bit, I think, actually. Again, I don't think he makes the team, but I think he suddenly earned himself the practice squad spot. And, you could see what he can do from there. And then, on the back end, nice to see guys like Trey Herndon make a play or two, right? These guys they're trying to put something on film for another team to say, hey, we like what we saw from you in Buffalo. You're not on their team. Why don't you join our team? That's the goal. And you want to see these guys achieve their dreams like that.
Yeah. Jimmy Charlo, he's that typical run and chase linebacker. He's kind of a hybrid. He's so light, but that's the Bills' MO when it comes to linebackers. I thought there were a couple plays where, aside from just clicking and closing and triggering on the ball, that if you put him in man coverage, you saw some of the struggles on the crossing route, on the out route. That's going to happen in zone. He sees the guy come into the zone and he attacks the ball. He attacks that receiver. So I think that's, again, right up the alley with the Bills and how they want to take these guys in and develop them.
He also had a fumble recovery.
He did. Because he's playing through. He was playing through the play.
That's right. That's right. And he said he teach, right? Just go to the ball, stay on the ball. Did you notice who caused the fumble recovery? Caused the fumble?
Zy Alexander?
It was Javon Solomon. And I'm wondering, Javon Solomon was playing late into this game. So was Dwayne Carter, by the way. Dwayne Carter was out there late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm not having good feeling about Carter making this team at this moment.
Could they bail on is it Dwayne Carter a 3rd or a 4th round pick last year? But either way, could they bail that early? Boy, that would be tough. I think what could wind up saving him could be the fact that obviously with the suspensions, right? Right now there's a numbers game going on right there.
Yeah. So, I agree with that. Yeah. I think he's on the fringe. Regardless, he's on high alert. He's on high alert because you got those young guys again, and they have offered more. Carter this preseason has spent a lot of time on the turf, and at nose tackle, that's a big no. He had a nice shed tackle in the game yesterday, but overall, it's been a rough preseason. And like you said, him playing that much, that often, is something to keep an eye on. You mentioned Hardy. I do think he did struggle a little bit. Tough spot for sure. Same thing with him. It felt like he was in phase, and then when the receiver would get to the top of that route and break in or out, he would get loose, and he would lose and get out of phase, and that receiver would make some plays. And then he's just not physical. When you're putting him inside, the guys that play inside at nickel, they got to have a certain mentality, and I think Hardy's more of a finesse type player. He's not the same type of scrappy mentality that you see in a Taron Johnson. That's what worries me about him if we're bumping him inside the nickel.
It was Zy Alexander. Did get credit for the forced fumble, but Solomon was also in that play. Thank you, Colin. Thank you for those who told me in the chat box. Thank you. I was on the sidelines, and I thought initially on the replay on the big board that it was Javon Solomon, but he must have been close enough.
He came right down the line of scrimmage after the throw. Okay. He came right down the line of scrimmage. He was right on contact. He was on the backside of the runner, and then Zy came up from his corner spot, and they were right there. The overall point I was making, thank you for the correction, is that Javon Solomon was still on the field in that situation. Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I thought he had a good game against the Bears. I didn't get a chance to put him under a microscope this morning, but I thought he's had a decent camp, but again, it's a numbers game, and we'll see. Maybe the suspensions have something to do with that as well. Anyone else on the defensive side of the ball that stood out for you, good or bad? Anyone else that you want to mention?
No, not necessarily. Tough night, like I said, for Daquan Hardy. Tough assignment that he drew. Dane had a couple ups and a couple downs, right? I think that's what you get sometimes from Dane Jackson when you see him there. So, no, I think that's good from the defensive side.
All right, let's flip the script. Let's go to the offensive side of the ball and see. Let's start off with someone that got the arrow up from you on the offensive side of the ball.
How can you deny what Tyrell Shavers did last night, what he's been doing throughout this entire camp, right? Tyrell Shavers, to me, earned a spot. I did my 53-man roster projected this morning. I already had him on, but I think because they do have 2 suspensions, because they do have Max Harrison will probably go on IR to return, because they do have Cedric Van Pran Granger who's going to go on PUP. That's 4 basically open roster spots you normally wouldn't have. And to me, Tyrell Shavers has earned one of those. And then let's see where it goes. Can he continue this? Can he really be a part of what you want to do on offense? The biggest thing with Tyrell Shavers is, can he contribute as a core special teamer? Because he's not going to be playing a ton on offense. And if you're not going to do that, the only way to justify a roster spot with your last wide receiver is to play special teams. I focused in on him last night, Eric, on special teams a couple of times. I mean, he's still a work in progress. It doesn't mean he made huge mistakes. Okay. But he's a guy that's going to have to get a little bit stronger to hold up at the point of attack when he's blocking for kick returns. He's going to be a guy that's going to have to make sure he can, do the job as a gunner if they want to put him there. But, I mean, he had a great catch. And we know that this guy has made plays. His only touch in the NFL was a 69-yard touchdown last year against the New York Jets. He was a big arrow up.
The special teams angle for him, yes, I do believe it is a work in progress. I watched a bunch of his special teams reps throughout the preseason last week. And the thing I noticed is like he can attach, especially if you're like talking punt return where he's kind of on the outside and he's covering up the guy and they're just running down the field. He had struggles on walling that guy off and staying with him athletically. I think he had one where it was a nice kick return. He was covering it. And it came up the sideline on a good return. And instead of trying to wrap the guy up, he kind of throw his shoulder. I thought he could have been a little more physical there. But again, I'm being picky because of how we have to magnify these things when you're talking keeping him on the roster. But overall, the mental toughness to come back from a drop and some of the double catch along the sideline when he came uncovered late in the play, I thought that was good. That mental toughness goes a long way with the staff as well. But I thought on that touchdown, one of the better catches we've seen over the last few years.
Oh my goodness. Receiver. I got to tell you a funny story. So the team had practice Thursday inside the stadium. And during the just warm-up period, throwing the ball, quarterbacks, they were doing some fades. And I'm standing right there by the wall. And I took my phone out. I'm like, I'm going to get a couple of videos of these.
Right.
And just before I did that, I'm so mad. Tyrell Shavers made an incredible one-handed catch, the exact catch he had last night. In this one-on-one, in this against air period, but it was an amazing catch, and he caught it. And the Bills, the wall, as you know, the corner is really close to the field, right?
Yes, very.
So
close.
He catches it, and he came run over, and he just he stood there. I go, nice catch, dude. He's like, appreciate you. And but anyway, I was so mad. I saw him after practice. I said, dude, I can't believe I didn't get that on video. And then he did it last night. I don't need it on video. You guys saw it, but he did the same thing in practice. I mean, the guy just has hands, and he's a tough matchup with his length as well. I want to address this comment real quick if I can. Wesley says, thought it was interesting Hoyt played until the very end of the game. Well, Wesley, let's remember he is suspended. They really need to get him reps. This was the last time Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi could play with the Buffalo Bills until they're suspended. I think you have to separate them versus anybody else you see playing at the end of the game. Totally different for him.
Yeah, the length by Shavers on that play, how with his inside hand, the right hand, how he was kind of holding off that defender. And then he almost had him at such a good long arm that his fist and the jersey of the player was kind of up in that guy's helmet and face. And then the ball, beautiful throw, up and over, dropped into a bucket by the quarterback. But then the ability to, the body control at the, along the boundary and the one-handed catch, all pretty, but with contact with him stiff arming and holding that guy at length, the body control to continuously keep running and keep your head and your eyes steady as that ball drops in along the boundary. It's so difficult to do, guys. Like, he made it look so easy, but like you said, they practice this stuff, each and every day at practice, but definitely arrow up for Shavers. I don't know how he doesn't make the roster at this point. He's literally put it all out there.
Asked him after the game if he felt that he did enough to make the roster. His answer was interesting. He said, yes, I felt I did last year too.
Yeah.
And,
totally.
and he didn't. And then he was on the practice squad. These are tough decisions. It's not as easy. It's always like, we try to explain these things on this podcast like this, Eric, right? Which is fans oftentimes, it's not a knock. It's not condescending. I'm just trying to explain. Fans look at it not through the lens of how the team has to look at it. They see the play made. How can you leave that guy off? He's making plays. But you have to think about how a roster is constructed and what everybody's role is. And if you're going to make the team as the last wide receiver, you got to play special teams. Like, that's got to be your role. Otherwise, there's no reason, because there's a linebacker or a DB that's going to do that job better. that's going to justify it more than you. Now, you could also make the case, well, wait a minute, maybe he's not the last wide receiver. What about Curtis Samuel? What about Elijah Moore? And I get that. And those are very interesting discussions. And Samuel did not make the trip because he was sick. And this is a guy that even Sean McDermott said he wanted to see him get out there, get through a game. That didn't happen. He's got a $7 million base salary. What happens with him? I think he's on the team. But man, I don't think it's a certainty right now with how, things have gone for him with his unavailability here through training camp. And then Elijah Moore, I think, is firmly on. Elijah Moore did not get a lot of reps, I think, as the game went on. And I think that means that they have plans for him to be on this roster and playing.
Elijah Moore, I know he comes up every week and fans want to know what's going on. And a lot of fans I see each and every day are saying he shouldn't make the team. It's so funny. Obviously, he's learning this offense still. He's still getting incorporated, ingrained in the offense. And there are so many routes that he runs where he's open. But the thing I say is he's open, but within the timing of the play, it's a little off. So there's been several routes where he runs some really strong, aggressive, like foot in the ground, change direction routes, and he's open, but the quarterback maybe moved on already in the progression. I think he's still working on the timing of his routes and timing it up with the rhythm of the offense and the quarterbacks each and every day. And so I think that once he kind of irons out those kinks, he's going to be in the proper window. Dawson Knox talked about this years ago when he was learning to play in the league and run routes in the league. It's not about how well you run the route necessarily. It's about when you're getting open in the structure of the play itself. And so I think Moore is struggling with that at the moment, which is not to say that he can't get better and get in rhythm and on track with his quarterbacks. But I do think that I'm with you. I do think he makes the roster. And if he can get on the same page with these quarterbacks and the structure of the play, they're going to get some explosive plays for him. They're going to get some manufactured touches for him. You saw them try to do that yesterday in the last couple of weeks. I think that once he gets incorporated a little more and settled in, I think he can have a really nice role for the Bills offense.
Yeah, Ron says in the chat he thinks that Brandon Beane tries hard to trade more. I just don't know if any team would make that deal. You have to think about it this way, Ron. And look, there are some wide receivers now that, teams are looking for wide receivers, right? So, hey, you never know. I think Samuel would be more the guy that could get traded than Moore, although Samuel's salary would be tough for a team to deal with. Maybe you can give a draft pick as well. The reason why I say that about Moore, you have to think about Elijah Moore. He was still a free agent after the draft. Like, if a team really wanted Elijah Moore that badly, they would assign him to a free agent contract. And by the way, the Browns put a certain kind of designation on him. It's not to go into the weeds on it, but they kind of said like, okay, well, after a while, we're just going to put that on him so we can get a draft pick back next year if he signs with a team. So he was not in high demand. And I don't think he's done enough this preseason for a team to go, oh my God, let's go get Elijah Moore.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned Shane Buechele. I do want to circle back with him because great story. You always hear about how intelligent he is, how he knows multiple offenses. He played the entire game, and I thought he was just sharp. And I'm talking everything about a quarterback, whether it's sensing pressure, sensing a blitz, sensing a free rusher. He always knew where his outlets were. He made some really nice throws, really catchable passes all over the field. I thought he did what he's supposed to do as a kind of that point guard. He really gave all those wide receivers trying to make plays, trying to make this roster, gave them opportunities to make plays with the balls in their hand. 5 targets for Wilkerson, 4 for Elijah Moore, 3 for Shavers, Hamler, and Kane, 1 for Chenault. He distributed the ball like he should, and I thought he did a great job just handling that moment and really living in that moment from what you said earlier.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do at the bottom end of the wide receiver chart. I don't see Laviska Shenault earning a spot. He's got to do it on special teams, and he is a very good kick returner. But outside of that, he really doesn't offer you enough, right? Because to me, and I've said this for months, and you know this, Brandon Codrington's the punt returner on this team. I just can't see it going any other way. And I haven't been able to see that for months, to be honest with you.
I agree with you. True Gun says, need to trade first picks for an all-star defender. Yeah, if it was only that easy. As Sal always says, you need 2 to tango. And so there aren't many out there, but it'd be nice. But I think the Bills are comfortable with their defense. As I know there's going to be growing pains. I think you guys should expect some growing pains to be there. But the additions that they have, especially, again, up front, the area that they have struggled in years past in the playoffs, I think they feel very comfortable with the rotation they have along that D line and defense.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, offensively, if we can stay on offense here for a minute, because we're talking about the wide receivers, but let's talk about another pass catcher. He became a punter last night, Zach Davidson.
So
I mean, come
cool.
on, Zach Davidson.
So cool.
He was one of the stories of the night last night. This guy,
Yeah.
in case people don't know, Zach Davidson was a college punter. He was actually, I believe, second team all conference when he was at Central Missouri. He averaged 44 yards a punt one year. And he's always been able to punt the ball, but he converted more to a tight end later in his college career. And he actually did both for a little while. So last night, what happened was Brad Robbins was sick, the Bills' normal punter. And they're like, you know what? Let's just take a little off his plate. He can hold. We don't want to trot him out there. We'll just have Zach Davidson punt. And the byproduct of that, Eric, as you know, the same thing with Ray Davis. You find out if you have an emergency punter that you can call on, right? Like you give him a rep, which is great. You get that opportunity. And he bombed that punt, 62 yards. And I got to tell you, this is one of the cool parts of being on the sidelines of my job. After that happened, I look back and Brad Robbins, the normal punter, looked at me and goes, "Holy cow, that was amazing." That was great. I love it.
That's awesome because from our perspective, watching the broadcast view, you saw Davison getting dapped from everyone on the sideline. He's making his way to the bench. So he gets to the bench and then he looks towards Robbins. I see him, hey, Robbins. And he gave him like a thumbs up, thumbs down type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
He got a thumbs up from Robbins there. It was so funny to see. And another one of those cool little nuggets and stories. And it kind of falls in line with the way that McDermott came off in his presser afterwards and kind of giving everyone like a thank you, a credence to, hey, you guys put it all out there. You guys have been working really hard. He seemed like he appreciated all the hard work that these guys have done this offseason and in that post-game presser yesterday. So to see Davison do that was one of those lighthearted moments in the game, the final game of the preseason to see from this team. So,
and he also had a nice catch, by the way, catch and run after catch.
He did. The tight end also as well. I thought had a good game as well.
No doubt. The Bills have a good tight end room. They really do. Now we know that Dalton Kincaid needs to be better, and we know that he needs to stay healthy. But the Bills have a very solid tight end room, even like going beyond 3 deep. Jackson Hawes, Aaron Cromer told Eric Wood, Jackson Hawes might be the best blocking tight end he's ever coached. That's Aaron Cromer saying that.
Whoa.
That's amazing. I mean, think about this, right? Again, we look through the lens. Fans sometimes look through the prism and the lens of, you know, these guys, what does this guy really do? And he might drop a pass, whatever. Like they have certain roles they're really good at, and it's up to the coaches to put him in that position. But to say something like that is amazing. And then you're right. I mean, the other guys too contributing at tight end. And here's Zach Davidson. He's not going to make the roster. He'll be on the practice squad once again. But now you have a break glass in case of emergency punter on your practice squad and a guy that can catch the ball. He's kind of, to me, he's really Dalton Kincaid light is what he is, right? It's a guy that he's not going to be much of a blocker, but he can catch, he can run routes. And I really like that about Zach Davidson. That was a very cool moment. And he drew a penalty on Shiloh Sanders, got Shiloh ejected from the game. And today, Shiloh Sanders was waived by the Buccaneers after that last night. Crazy. He threw a punch at him. Zach gave him the little, you're small. I asked him in the locker room, did you tell him like you're too small? He goes, no, I didn't say anything. I just gave him the gesture. But he said his words to me where he goes, but if you're going to, kind of get upset about being blocked down the field, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, that sounds like a you problem, right?
I know, right?
So let's one guy I put arrow down for. I thought Ryan Vandermark struggled in this game and has had a rough preseason. I thought that he got overpowered a bunch, driven into the backfield on a lot of these runs. And when he was asked to anchor or attempted to anchor versus power rushes, I saw that he struggled a little bit in this game and even in the game against the Bears. So it was disappointing because I think he's a really good, swing type tackle to have around, and he can play several positions. But I thought he struggled in this game against the Bucs. Do you have any others? Arrow up, arrow down.
I want to ask you this: do you think it's interesting that Chase Lunt played a bunch at left tackle?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they're gonna hang their hat on with him, moving him around a bunch. I think he's still, I could say this a lot of the same things about Chase Lunt that I did about Vandermark. I think power gets into his body. And I'm interested to see him long-term development, like wise. Is he going to stay outside at the tackle position or move inside the guard? Because I do think that there is some versatility, positional flexibility with him if you bump him inside.
And I think the Bills, obviously we know how much they love versatility, but that brings into play what happens in the interior because, Alec Anderson can certainly be your swing center and guard, but with Cedric Van Prank Granger on PUP still, And then now you also have 2 tackles, Travis Clayton and Tylon Grable, who are in concussion protocol. I mean, they're getting banged up here. I really want to appreciate Kendrick Green and his ability to what he did. I mean, this guy was playing hurt. He got hurt a couple of times. Kendrick Green did a really nice job at center and at guard. I don't think he's going to make the team, but I think he's right there. Like, it's a guy that they really like to count on to be able to hopefully put him on the practice squad. It was Feeney who played center most of the night last night. But I think Kendrick Green kind of did everything. When you come to a team and you're just asked to do a lot of that stuff where, hey, you're probably not going to make it, but we need to see this and this. This guy did it. And I just think that there's a lot to be said for that. He was put in a tough spot sometimes where, the main guys were out and he had to kind of take a little bit of the load. And he showed a lot. So I really like that from Kendrick Green. That's just kind of an overall like arrow up for me for Kendrick Green for the for the entire preseason. And then the other arrow up I'll give for the first 5 times we saw him, Tyler Bass. He did a really nice job. It was great to see Tyler Bass kicking again. It was. He had field goals of 37, 39, 39, 2 extra points. He did miss a chip shot. You can't let that happen. But I think overall, fine. He missed a kick. To see Tyler Bass kicking again and look comfortable is the biggest thing.
I thought we talked about conviction earlier. I thought he was swinging through and kicking with conviction. He definitely seemed confident. Yeah, he missed one, but it was nice to see him out there getting a couple of swings at it. It was in the last preseason game, having not seen him at all. It was nice to see him out there and trying to get, his legs back under him, especially when we were talking being in the game, in the moment, and doing that. I thought, I'd give him an arrow up. I thought he played, pretty well as far as getting on the field and kicking out there.
I don't want to forget the 2 running backs. I mean, how about Elijah Young? He shows up 2 days later. Basically, he gets a bunch of carries. He had a really nice game last night. And then
I don't know how they do that.
Yeah,
honestly, Sal, to be signed and then immediately thrown in, and you have to run these concepts, and he wasn't just out there for runs; he was out there for passes, catching passes, having to block. I don't know how they do that. It's amazing.
93 yards from scrimmage.
It's crazy.
50. He led all players with 53 yards rushing. He had 40 receiving, and then Frank Gore Jr. has just been steady all camp. With Frank Gore Jr., at some point you hope that he can play in the league. It's not going to be here with this roster right now, though. That's the reality, Eric.
I agree. Gore is he's just the ultimate. He's just so efficient. He's so smooth. It's like he's been there and done that. Young, I thought early on in the game, I thought he was dancing a little too much. But then as the game wore on and he started seeing the blocks better and getting in rhythm with the offensive line, he started hitting those holes. He was breaking tackles. I mean, let's talk about that. The 4-minute drill, or the fourth quarter, is, I think Buechele said we were basically in the 4-minute drill the entire fourth quarter. I thought the Bills, their ability to displace and move the offense, move the defensive line against their will when the defense knew they were trying to run the clock out, and then eventually doing that at the end of the game. I love those moments, those small teaching moments, those small wins in those high leverage situations that are going to come up each and every week.
No doubt. I agree with that. And again, I'll go back to something that Chris Tabor said. It's true. He's the Bills special teams coordinator. He said the goal is to coach somebody up and to give them an opportunity that if you don't make it here, you make it somewhere. That's what you want to do. You want these guys to succeed. A guy like Elijah Young putting that on film last night, maybe he gets on a practice squad somewhere. Exactly. Some teams like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's on the Bills. They did keep 2, I think, last year, most of the year. Frank Gore Jr., though, same thing. And at some point, you want Frank Gore Jr. to get an opportunity. You hope it's not at an expense of an injury. But I always say this, that it's very, very hard for a team, take any team out there, whatever it is. Let's just say Frank Gore Sr.'s main team, the San Francisco 49ers for many years, right? It's very hard for a team, as much as they might like what they see from Frank Gore Jr. on the Buffalo Bills, to say, let's go take him over a guy that we have who is probably maybe not as good, but the difference isn't that much. Because why? Now you have to put him on the 53. He's got to learn your entire playbook. When you got a guy in house that already has that you've developed, that's why it's easier than people think, quote unquote, easier to get guys on the practice squad in those situations.
Good point. Very good point. So with that said, Sal, fill us in on the schedule. What's on the docket this week? What are we looking at? What's the schedule looking like?
Okay, so we are expecting the Bills to not have any media availability until Wednesday Generally, what happens this time of year, they're working tirelessly Monday and Tuesday to finalize the roster. Okay. And they're going to do like walkthroughs and stuff. So probably no practice Monday or Tuesday. Wednesday, there might be a walkthrough the media can attend. And then we generally hear from Brandon Beane on Wednesday. And last year, Eric, it wasn't until like late in the afternoon. Why would that be? Because he's finalizing the practice squad.
Yeah.
I mean, right? Like you got 24 hours then to see who clears waivers. Here's how it works. It's a timeline, folks. Tuesday at 4 p.m., every team in the league has to be down to 53 guys. At that point, if you're a player who gets cut, you're a free agent if you've been in the league 4 years or more. If you've been in the league less than 4 years, you're subject to waivers. Then by noon the next day, all the waiver claims have to be in. So if you see somebody on another team that gets released and they're only 2 years into their career and you want them, you put a waiver claim in. So Bean's got to wait for all that to happen, all the roster stuff to shake out, and then they'll finally meet with us, sometime Wednesday. And then from there, going into Thursday and Friday, we'll see what kind of practices they have, because then it's leading into the first actual week of practice, taking on the Baltimore Ravens. There's a lot of NFL operational stuff that has to happen this week.
And so you did say at the top that you released a projection, right? A 53-man
projection. I'd like everybody to go check it out at Sal Sports on Twitter, on X. I have a color-coded spreadsheet, allows me to organize things better, but also for you to see things better. Check it out. In yellow is who I project to make the 53-man roster. In blue are the guys on IR for the season. Some are guys right now, just procedural moves. And then I have Max Harrison as an IR return. They can do two guys like that on that day and save a roster spot. Ogunjobi and Hoyt, obviously suspended, and Cedric Van Pran Granger on pup. But check it out. See if you disagree with me on anything. That's at Sal Sports. So go check that out. And I always want to remind everybody, Eric, that's a projected roster about what I think the Bills will do. It's not Sal Capaccio's opinion on who should get a spot, right? It's what I think the Bills will do based on everything that I've seen and people I've talked to.
No, that's a great point. Great point. And guys, be sure to get over there, check that out. And if you got a moment, leave us a comment on YouTube if you're watching this live. If not, later on, again, leave us a comment, share with your friends. If you are not able to catch it entirely live here on YouTube, we're obviously in audio form on all podcast platforms as well. iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your normal podcast rotation. I know you guys are huge podcast listeners on your way to work, at work. You can find Turf to Tape there as well, presented by Thin Man Brewery. But Sal, awesome episode. Preseason's over.
Yeah.
We're going to try again this show, guys. Sal's a really busy guy. I have my own stuff going on at Cover One. So you're going to have to roll with it. You're going to have to roll with this schedule. We're going to
be here.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know when we pop up. Could be 2 a.m. sometime, and Sal and Eric are live somewhere.
Exactly. So just bear with us. We're gonna give you the content. We're gonna bring it like we always do. Just keep your eyes out and your head on a swivel for Turf to Tape. Again, presented by Thin Man Brewery. But on behalf of Thin Man Brewery, I'm Eric Turner. That's Sal Capaccio. We'll see you next week on another Turf to Tape.